News Wikipedia News Edition. On second episode is McDonald's. McDonald's Corporation is an American fast food company founded in 1940 as a restaurant operated by Richard and Maurice McDonald in San Bernardino, California, United States.
They represented their business as a hamburger stand and later turned the company into a franchise with the Golden Arches logo being introduced in 1953 at a location in Phoenix, Arizona.
In 1955, Ray Kroc, a businessman, joined the company as a franchise agent and proceeded to purchase the chain from the McDonald brothers.
McDonald's had its original headquarters in Oak Brook, Illinois, but moved its global headquarters to Chicago in early 2018.
McDonald's is the world's largest restaurant chain by revenue, serving over 69 million customers daily in over 100 countries across 37,855 outlets as of 2018.
Although McDonald's is best known for its hamburgers, cheeseburgers and french fries, they also feature chicken products, breakfast items, soft drinks, milkshakes, wraps, and desserts.
In response to changing consumer tastes and a negative backlash because of the unhealthiness of their food, the company has added to its menu salads, fish, smoothies, and fruit.
The McDonald's Corporation revenues come from the rent, royalties, and fees paid by the franchisees, as well as sales in company-operated restaurants.
According to two reports published in 2018, McDonald's is the world's second largest private employer with 1.7 million employees, behind Walmart with 2.3 million employees. The siblings Richard and Maurice McDonald opened the first McDonald's at 1398 Northeast Street at West 14th Street in San Bernardino, California at 34.1255 and 117.2946W on May 15, 1940. But it was not the McDonald's recognizable today. Ray Kroc made changes to the brothers' business to modernize it.
The brothers introduced the Speedy service system in 1948, putting into expanded use the principles of the modern fast food restaurant that their predecessor White Castle had put into practice more than 2 decades earlier.
The original mascot of McDonald's was a chef and on top of a hamburger who was referred to as Speedy.
In 1962, the Golden Arches replaced Speedy as the universal mascot.
The symbol Ronald McDonald was introduced in 1965.
The clown, Ronald McDonald, appeared in advertising to target their audience of children.
On May 4, 1961, McDonald's first filed for a U.S. trademark on the name McDonald's with a description, drive-in restaurant services, which continues to be renewed.
By September 13, McDonald's, under the guidance of Ray Kroc, filed for a trademark on the new logo and overlapping, double-arched M symbol.
But before the double arches, McDonald's used a single arch for the architecture of their buildings.
Although the Golden Arches logo appeared in various forms, the present version was not used until November 18, 1968, when the company was favored a U.S. trademark.
The present corporation credits its founding to franchise businessman Ray Kroc on April 15, 1955.
This was in fact the 9th open McDonald's restaurant overall, although this location was destroyed and rebuilt in 1984.
Kroc later purchased the McDonald brothers' equity in the company and began the company's worldwide reach.
Kroc was reported as being an aggressive business partner, driving the McDonald brothers out of the industry.
Kroc and the McDonald brothers fought for control of the business, as documented in Kroc's autobiography.
The San Bernardino restaurant was eventually torn down 1971, according to Juan Paulo, and the site was sold to the Juan Paulo chain in 1976.
This area now serves as headquarters for the Juan Paulo chain and the McDonald's and Route 66 Museum.
With the expansion of McDonald's into many international markets, the company has become a symbol of globalization and the spread of the American way of life.
Its prominence has also made it a frequent topic of public debates about obesity, corporate ethics, and consumer responsibility. McDonald's restaurants are found in 120 countries and territories around the world and serve 68 million customers each day.
McDonald's operates 37,855 restaurants worldwide, employing more than 210,000 people as of the end of 2018.
There are currently a total of 2,770 company-owned locations and 35,085 franchise locations, which includes 21,685 locations franchised to conventional franchisees, 7,225 locations licensed to developmental licensees, and 6,175 locations licensed to foreign affiliates. Focusing on its core brand, McDonald's began divesting itself of other chains it had acquired during the 1990s.
The company owned a majority stake in Chipotle Mexican Grill until October 2006, when McDonald's fully divested from Chipotle through a stock exchange.
Until December 2003, it also owned Donato's Pizza, and it owned a small share of Aroma Cafe from 1999 to 2001.
On August 27, 2007, McDonald's sold Boston Market to Sun Capital Partners.
Notably, McDonald's has increased shareholder dividends for 25 consecutive years, making it one of the S&P 500 dividend aristocrats.
The company is ranked 131st on the Fortune 500 of the largest United States corporations by revenue.
In October 2012, its monthly sales fell for the first time in 9 years.
In 2014, its quarterly sales fell for the first time in 17 years, when its sales dropped for the entirety of 1997.
In the United States, it is reported that drive-thrus account for 70% of sales.
McDonald's closed down 184 restaurants in the United States in 2015, which was 59 more than what they planned to open.
This move was also the first time McDonald's had a net decrease in the number of locations in the United States since 1970. The McDonald's on-demand delivery concept, which began in 2017 with a partnership with Uber Eats and added DoorDash in 2019, now accounts for up to 3% of all business as of 2019. For the fiscal year 2018, McDonald's reported earnings of US $5.9 billion with an annual revenue of US $21.0 billion, a decrease of 7.9% over the previous fiscal cycle.
McDonald's shares traded at over $145 per share, and its market capitalization was valued at over US $134.5 billion in September 2018.
The company currently owns all the land, which is valued at an estimated $16 to $18 billion, on which its restaurants are situated.
The company earns a significant portion of its revenue from rental payments from franchisees.
These rent payments McDonald's rose 26% between 2010 and 2015, accounting for 1/5 of the company's total revenue at the end of the period.
In recent times, there have been calls to spin off the company's U.S. holdings into a potential real estate investment trust, but the company announced at its investor conference on November 10, 2015, that this would not happen.
The CEO, Steve Easterbrook, discussed that pursuing the REIT option would pose too large a risk to the company's business model. The United Kingdom and Ireland business model is different from the US in that fewer than 30% of restaurants are franchised, with a majority under the ownership of the company.
McDonald's trains its franchisees and management at Hamburger University, located at its Chicago headquarters.
In other countries, McDonald's restaurants are operated by joint ventures of McDonald's Corporation and other local entities or governments. According to Fast Food Nation by Eric Schlosser, 2001, nearly 1 in 8 workers in the U.S. have at some time been employed by McDonald's.
Employees are encouraged by McDonald's Corp to maintain their health by singing along to their favorite songs in order to relieve stress, attending church services in order to have a lower blood pressure, and taking 2 vacations annually in order to reduce risk for myocardial infarction.
Fast Food Nation also states that McDonald's is the largest private operator of playgrounds in the U.S. as well as the single largest purchaser of beef, pork, potatoes, and apples.
The selection of meats McDonald's uses varies to some extent based on the culture of the host country.
On June 13, 2016, McDonald's confirmed plans to move its global headquarters to Chicago's West Loop neighborhood in the near West Side.
The 608,000 square foot structure was built on the former site of Harpo Productions, where the Oprah Winfrey Show and several other Harpo Productions taped, and opened on June 4, 2018.
The McDonald's former headquarters complex, McDonald's Plaza, is located in Oak Brook, Illinois.
It sits on the site of the former headquarters and stabling area of Paul Butler, the founder of Oak Brook.
McDonald's moved into the Oak Brook facility from an office within the Chicago Loop in 1971. As of January 2019, the board of directors had the following members. On March 1, 2015, after being chief brand officer of McDonald's and its former head in the UK and Northern Europe, Steve Easterbrook became CEO, succeeding Don Thompson, who stepped down on January 28, 2015. McDonald's has become emblematic of globalization, sometimes referred to as the McDonaldization of society.
The Economist newspaper uses the Big Mac Index, the comparison of a Big Mac's cost in various world currencies, can be used to informally judge these currencies' purchasing power parity.
Switzerland has the most expensive Big Mac in the world as of July 2015, while the country with the least expensive Big Mac is India. Outright for a Maharaja Mac, the next cheapest Big Mac is Hong Kong. Thomas Friedman said that no country with a McDonald's had gone to war with another. However, the Golden Arches theory of conflict prevention is incorrect.
Exceptions are the 1989 United States invasion of Panama and ATO's bombing of Serbia in 1999, the 2006 Lebanon War, and the 2008 South Ossetia War.
McDonald's suspended operations in its corporate-owned stores in Crimea after Russia annexed the region in 2014.
On August 20, 2014, as tensions between the United States and Russia streamed over events in Ukraine and the result of U.S. sanctions, the Russian government temporarily 4 McDonald's outlets in Moscow, citing sanitary concerns.
The company has operated in Russia since 1990 and in August 2014 at 438 stores across the country.
On August 23, 2014, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Arkady Dvorkovich ruled out any government move to ban McDonald's and dismissed the notion that the temporary closures had anything to do with a sanction.
Some observers have suggested that the company should be given credit for increasing the standard of service in markets that it enters.
A group of anthropologists in a study entitled Golden Arches East looked at the impact McDonald's had on East Asia and Hong Kong in particular.
When it opened in Hong Kong in 1975, McDonald's was the first restaurant to consistently offer clean restrooms, driving customers to demand the same of other restaurants and institutions.
McDonald's has taken to partnering up with Sinopec, the second largest oil company in the People's Republic of China, as it takes advantage of the country's growing use of personal vehicles by opening numerous drive-through restaurants.
McDonald's has opened a McDonald's restaurant and a cafe on the underground premises of the French Fine Arts Museum, the Louvre. The company stated it would open vegetarian-only restaurants in India by mid-2013.
Foreign restaurants are banned in Bermuda, with the exception of KFC, which was present before the current law was passed.
Therefore, there are no McDonald's in Bermuda. On January 9, 2017, 80% of the franchise rights in the mainland China and in Hong Kong were sold for US $2.080 billion to a consortium of CITIC Limited for 32%. And private equity funds managed by CITIC Capital for 20% and Carlyle for 20%, which CITIC Limited and CITIC Capital would also form a joint venture to own the stake. On April 1, 2019, Nation's Restaurant News reported that McDonald's made a rare choice, spending $3.7 million to invest in Plexure, a New Zealand app developer, which makes this investment a first for McDonald's. McDonald's predominantly sells hamburgers, various types of chicken, chicken sandwiches, French fries, soft drinks, breakfast items, and desserts.
In most markets, McDonald's offers salads and vegetarian items, wraps and other localized fare.
On a seasonal basis, McDonald's offers a McRib sandwich.
Some speculate the seasonality of the McRib adds to its appeal.
Products are offered as either dine-in, where the customer opts to eat in the restaurant, or take-out, where the customer opts to take the food off the premises.
Dine-in meals are provided on a plastic tray with a paper insert on the floor of the tray.
Take-out meals are usually delivered with the contents enclosed in a distinctive McDonald's branded brown paper bag.
In both cases, the individual items are wrapped or boxed as appropriate.
Since Steve Easterbrook became CEO of the company, McDonald's has streamlined the menu, which in the United States contained nearly 200 items.
The company has also looked to introduce healthier options and remove high-fructose corn syrup from hamburger buns.
The company has also removed artificial preservatives from Chicken McNuggets, replacing chicken skin, safflower oil and citric acid found in Chicken McNuggets with pea starch, rice starch and powdered lemon juice. In September 2018, McDonald's USA announced that they no longer use artificial preservatives, flavors and colors entirely from 7 classic burgers sold in the US, including the hamburger, cheeseburger, double cheeseburger, McDouble, quarter pounder with cheese, double quarter pounder with cheese and the Big Mac.
Nevertheless, the pickles will an artificial preservative, although customers can choose to opt out of getting pickles with their burgers.
Restaurants in several countries, particularly in Asia, serve soup.
This local deviation from the standard menu is a characteristic for which the chain is particularly known, and one which is employed either to abide by regional food taboos, such as the religious prohibition of beef consumption in India, or to make available foods with which the regional market is more familiar, such as the sale of rice in Indonesia, or a prawn burger in Singapore and Japan.
In Germany and some other Western European countries, McDonald's sells beer.
In New Zealand, McDonald's sells meat pies after the local affiliate partially relaunched the Georgie Pie fast food chain it bought out in 1996.
In the United States and Canada, after limited trials on a regional basis, McDonald's began offering in 2015 and 2017, respectively, a partial breakfast menu during all hours its restaurants are open. Most standalone McDonald's restaurants offer both counter service and drive-thru service, with indoor and sometimes outdoor seating.
Drive-thru, automac, pay and drive, or McDrive, as it is known in many countries, often has separate stations for placing, paying for, and picking up orders, though the latter two steps are frequently combined. It was first introduced in Sierra Vista, Arizona in 1975, following the lead of other fast food chains.
The first such restaurant in Britain opened at Fallowfield, Manchester in 1986. In some countries, McDrive locations near highways offer no counter service or seating.
In contrast, locations in high-density city neighborhoods often omit drive-thru service.
There are also a few locations, mostly in downtown districts, that offer a walk-through service in place of drive-thru. McCafe is a cafe-style accompaniment to McDonald's restaurants and is a concept created by McDonald's Australia, also known and marketed as Macca's in Australia, starting with Melbourne in 1993.
As of 2016, most McDonald's in Australia have McCafes located within the existing McDonald's restaurant.
In Tasmania, there are McCafes in every restaurant, with the rest of the states quickly following suit.
After upgrading to the new McCafe look and feel, some Australian restaurants have noticed up to a 60% increase in sales.
At the end of 2003, there were over 600 McCafes worldwide. From 2015 to 2016, McDonald's tried a new gourmet burger service and restaurant concept based on other gourmet restaurants such as Shake Shack and Grilled.
It was rolled out for the first time in Australia during the early months of 2015 and expanded to China, Hong Kong, Singapore, Arabia and New Zealand, with ongoing trials in the US market.
In dedicated Create Your Taste (CYT) kiosks, customers could choose all ingredients including type of bun and meat along with optional extras.
In late 2015, the Australian CYT service introduced CYT salads.
After a person had ordered, McDonald's advised that wait times were between 10-15 minutes.
When the food was ready, trained crew hosts brought the food to the customer's table.
Instead of McDonald's usual cardboard and plastic packaging, CYT food was presented on wooden boards, fries in wire baskets and salads in china bowls with metal cutlery.
A higher price applied.
In November 2016, Create Your Taste was replaced by a Signature Crafted Recipes program designed to be more efficient and less expensive. Some locations are connected to gas stations/convenience stores, while others called Food Extras have limited seating and/or menu or may be located in a shopping mall.
Other McDonald's are located in Walmart stores.
McStop is a location targeted at truckers and travelers, which may have services found at truck stops. In Sweden, customers who order a Happy Meal can use the meal's container for a pair of Happy Goggles.
The company created a game for the goggles known as Slope Stars.
McDonald's predicts Happy Goggles will continue in other countries.
In the Netherlands, McDonald's has introduced McTracks that doubles as a recording studio. It reacts to touch.
They can create their own beats with a synth and tweak sounds with special effects. The first kosher McDonald's was established in 1997 at the Abasto de Buenos Aires Mall in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
There are also many kosher branches in Israel.
McDonald's playgrounds are called McDonald's Playplace.
Some McDonald's in suburban areas and certain cities feature large indoor or outdoor playgrounds.
The first Playplace with a familiar crawl tube design with wall pits and slides was introduced in 1987 in the US, with many more being constructed soon after. McDonald's next use open concept design and offer, create your taste, digital ordering.
The concept store also offers free mobile device charging and table service after 6 o'clock p.m.
The first store opened in Hong Kong in December 2015. In 2006, McDonald's introduced its Forever Young brand by redesigning all of its restaurants, the first major redesign since the 1970s. The goal of the redesign is to be more like a coffee shop, similar to Starbucks.
The design includes wooden tables, full leather chairs, and muted colors. The red was muted to terracotta, the yellow was shifted to golden for a more sunny look, and olive and sage green were also added.
To create a warmer look, the restaurants have less plastic and more brick and wood, with modern hanging lights to produce a softer glow.
Many restaurants now feature free Wi-Fi and flat-screen TVs.
Other upgrades include double drive truss, flat roofs instead of the angle red roofs, and replacing fiberglass with wood.
Also, instead of the familiar golden arches, the restaurants now feature semi-swooshes, half of a golden arch, similar to the Nike swoosh.
McDonald's began banning smoking in 1994 when it restricted customers from smoking within its 1,400 wholly owned restaurants. Since the late 1990s, McDonald's has attempted to replace employees with electronic kiosks which would perform actions such as taking orders and accepting money.
In 1999, McDonald's first tested e-clerks in suburban Chicago, Illinois, and Wyoming, Michigan, with the devices being able to save money on live staffers and attracting larger purchase amounts than average employees.
In 2013, the University of Oxford estimated that in the succeeding decades, there was a 92% probability of food preparation and serving to become automated in fast food establishments.
By 2016, McDonald's Create Your Taste electronic kiosks were seen in some restaurants internationally where customers could custom order meals.
As employees pushed for higher wages in the late 2010s, some believed that fast food companies such as McDonald's would use the devices to cut costs for employing individuals. In September 2019, McDonald's purchased an AI-based startup Apprenti for replacing human servers with voice-based technology in its US drive-thrus. On August 5, 2013, The Guardian revealed that 90% of McDonald's UK workforce are on zero-hour contracts, making it possibly the largest such private sector employer in the country.
A study released by Fast Food Forward, conducted by Angelo Listgrove Research, showed that approximately 84% of all fast food employees working in New York City in April 2013 had been paid less than their legal wages by their employers.
From 2007 to 2011, fast food workers in the U.S. drew an average of $7 billion of public assistance annually, resulting from receiving low wages.
The McResource website advised employees to break their food into smaller pieces to feel fuller, seek refunds for unopened holiday purchases, sell possessions online for quick cash, and to quit complaining as stress hormone levels rise by 15% after 10 minutes of complaining.
In December 2015, McDonald's shut down the McResource website amidst negative publicity and criticism.
McDonald's plans to continue an internal telephone helpline through which its employees can obtain advice on work and life problems.
Liberal think tank, the Roosevelt Institute, accuses some McDonald's restaurants of actually paying less than the minimum wage to entry positions due to rampant wage theft.
In South Korea, McDonald's pays part-time employees $5.50 an hour and is accused of paying less with arbitrary schedule adjustments and pay delays.
In late 2015, anonymous aggregated data collected by Glassdoor suggests that McDonald's in the United States pays entry-level employees between $7.25 an hour and $11 an hour, with an average of $8.69 an hour.
Shift managers get paid an average of $10.34 an hour.
Assistant managers get paid an average of $11.57 an hour.
McDonald's CEO, Steve Easterbrook, currently earns an annual salary of $1,100,000.
His total compensation for 2017 was $21,761,052. McDonald's workers have on occasions decided to strike over pay, with most of the employees on strike seeking to be paid $15.
When interviewed about the strikes occurring, former McDonald's CEO Ed Ramsey stated, "It's cheaper to buy a $35,000 robotic arm than it is to hire an employee who's efficient, making $15 an hour bagging French fries," with Ramsey explaining that increasing employee wages could possibly take away from entry-level jobs.
However, according to Easterbrook, increasing wages and benefits for workers saw a 6% increase in customer satisfaction when comparing 2015's first quarter data to the first quarter of 2016, with greater returns seen as a result. In September 2017, 2 British McDonald's stores agreed to strike over 0 hours contracts for staff.
Picket lines were formed around the 2 stores in Crayford and Cambridge.
The strike was supported by the leader of the opposition, Jeremy Corbyn. Workers at the McDonald's franchise at St. Bartholomew, Marseille, occupied the restaurant in protest against its planned closure.
Whoa!
Employing 77 people, the restaurant is the second biggest private sector employer in St. Bartholomew, which has an unemployment rate of 30%.
Lawyers for Kamal Gumari, a shop steward at the franchise, claimed an attempt was made to kill him when a car drove at him in the restaurant car park. In March 2015, McDonald's workers in 19 U.S. cities filed 28 health and safety complaints with the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which alleged that low staffing, lack of protective gear, poor training and pressure to work fast has resulted in injuries.
The complaints also allege that, because of the lack of first aid supplies, workers were told by management to treat burn injuries with condiments such as mayonnaise and mustard.
The Fight for $15 labor organization aided the workers in filing the complaints. In 2015, McDonald's pledged to stop using eggs from battery cage facilities by 2025.
Since McDonald's purchases over 2 billion eggs per year or 4% of eggs produced in the United States, the switch is expected to have a major impact on the egg industry and is part of a general trend toward cage-free eggs, driven by consumer concern over the harsh living conditions of hens.
The aviary systems from which the new eggs will be sourced are troubled by much higher mortality rates, as well as introducing environmental and worker safety problems.
The high-end mortality rate, which is more than double that of battery cage systems, will require new research to mitigate.
The facilities also have higher ammonia levels due to faces being kicked up into the air.
Producers raised concerns about the production cost, which is expected to increase by 36%.
McDonald's continues to source pork from facilities that use gestation crates, and in 2012 pledged to phase them out. McDonald's has for decades maintained an extensive advertising campaign.
Whoa!
In addition to the usual media, television, radio, and newspaper, the company makes significant use of billboards and signage, and also sponsors sporting events, ranging from Little League to the FIFA World Cup and Olympic Games.
Television has played a central role in the company's advertising strategy.
To date, McDonald's has used 23 different slogans in United States advertising, as well as a few other slogans for select countries and regions.
McDonald's and NASA explored an advertising agreement for a planned mission to the asteroid 449 Hamburger. However, the spacecraft was eventually canceled. McDonald's entered the NASCAR Cup Series in 1977, sponsoring Richard Childress for one race.
Between the years 1977 and 1986, McDonald's would only sponsor a handful of races in a season.
In 1993, McDonald's would become the full-time sponsor for the No. 27 Junior Johnson and Associates Ford, driven by Hot Strickland.
In 1994, Strickland would be replaced in the car by Jimmy Spencer, who would go on and win twice that season.
The following season, McDonald's would move over to the No. 94 Bill Elliott Racing Ford, driven by team owner Bill Elliott.
McDonald's would stay with Elliott until the 2001 season, when they moved again, this time to the No. 96 TTI Motorsports Ford, driven by rookie Andy Houston.
However, when the team failed to field a car for the entire season, McDonald's became absent from NASCAR until 2004, when it joined Everton Motorsports, becoming a part-time sponsor for drivers Bill Elliott, Casey Kahn, Elliott Sadler, A.J. L. Mendinger, and Meat Sorensen all the way until 2010.
During the 2010 season, McDonald's would enter its longest partnership with the team.
Sponsoring select races with Chip Ganassi Racing's No. 1 Chevrolet, driven by J.B. McMurray, McDonald's would go and sponsor McMurray until his retirement in the 2019 Daytona 500.
In 2019, McDonald's would stay with Chip Ganassi Racing, switching to the No. 42 car, driven by Kyle Larson.
McDonald's would also sponsor Richard Petty Motorsports No. 43 Chevrolet, driven by Darrell Wallace Jr. for a single race.
As of November 2019, McDonald's still sponsors the No. 42 Chevrolet, driven by Kyle Larson.
McDonald's is the title sponsor of the McDonald's All-American Game, All-Star basketball games played each year for American and Canadian boys and girls high school basketball graduates. McHappy Day is an annual event at McDonald's, during which a percentage of the day's sales go to charity.
It is the signature fundraising event for Ronald McDonald House Charities.
In 2007, it was celebrated in 17 countries: Argentina, Australia, Austria, Brazil, Canada, England, Finland, France, Guatemala, Hungary, Ireland, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the United States, and Uruguay. According to the Australian McHappy Day website, McHappy Day raised $20.4 million in 2009.
The goal for 2010 was $20.8 million.
In 1995, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital received an anonymous letter postmarked in Dallas, Texas, containing a $1 million winning McDonald's Monopoly game piece.
McDonald's officials came to the hospital accompanied by a representative from the accounting firm Arthur Anderson, who examined the card under a jeweler's IPs. handled it with plastic gloves and verified it as a winner.
Although game rules prohibited the transfer of prizes, McDonald's waived the rule and made the annual $50,000 annuity payments for the full 20-year period through 2014, even after learning that the piece was sent by an individual involved in an embezzlement scheme intended to defraud McDonald's. Refugees are poor people in Hong Kong, Japan, and China who use McDonald's 24-hour restaurants as a temporary hostel.
1 in 5 of Hong Kong's population lives below the poverty line.
The rise of refugees was first documented by photographer Shuri Katra in 2015. In 2016, McDonald's of Hawaii launched the Next Music, Sounds That Spark Change music competition and charity event that featured 40 of Hawaii's musicians, bands, and artists.
McDonald's of Hawaii consumers voted for their favorites with Next vote cards through the McDonald's Next tab with music downloads.
This music contest was also a charity event that supported Ronald McDonald House Charities, Hawaii Island Humane Society, Accessorf, People Attentive to Children, National Multiple Sclerosis Society, Hawaiian Music Hall of Fame, and Project Vision. In 1990, activists from a small group known as London Greenpeace, no connection to the international group Greenpeace, distributed leaflets entitled What's Wrong with McDonald's?, criticizing its environmental, health, and labor record.
The corporation wrote to the group demanding they desist and apologize, and when 2 of the activists refused to back down, sued them for libel in one of the longest cases in British civil law.
A documentary film of the McLibel trial has been shown in several countries. In the late 1980s, Phil Sokoloff, a millionaire businessman who had suffered a heart attack at the age of 43, took out full-page newspaper ads in New York, Chicago, and other large cities accusing McDonald's menu of being a threat to American health, and asking them to stop using beef tallow to cook their French fries. Though the company objected, the term McChop was added to Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary in 2003.
The term was defined as a low-paying job that requires little skill and provides little opportunity for advancement.
In 2001, Eric Slosser's book Fast Food Nation included criticism of the business practices of McDonald's.
Among the critiques were allegations that McDonald's, along with other companies within the fast food industry, uses its political influence to increase its profits at the expense of people's health and the social conditions of its workers.
The book also brought into question McDonald's advertisement techniques in which it targets children.
While the book did mention other fast food chains, it focused primarily on McDonald's.
In 2002, vegetarian groups, largely Hindu and Buddhist, successfully sued McDonald's for misrepresenting its French fries as vegetarian when they contained beef broth. Morgan Spurlock's 2004 documentary film Super Size Me claimed that McDonald's food was contributing to the increase of obesity in society and that the company was failing to provide nutritional information about its food for its customers.
6 weeks after the film premiered, McDonald's announced that it was eliminating the super size option and was creating the adult Happy Meal.
There was also a documentary called Fathead, which pointed out inconsistencies in Super Size Me. In 2006, an unsanctioned McDonald's video game by Italian group Mala Industria was released online.
It is parody of the business practices of the corporate giant, taking the guise of a Cocoon-style business simulation game.
In the game, the player plays the role of a McDonald's CEO, choosing whether or not to use controversial practices like genetically altered cow feed, plowing over rainforests, and corrupting public officials.
McDonald's issued a statement distancing itself from the game.
In January 2014, it was reported that McDonald's was accused of having used a series of tax maneuvers to avoid taxes in France.
The company confirmed that tax authorities had visited McDonald's French headquarters in Paris but insisted that it had not done anything wrong, saying, McDonald's firmly denies the accusation made by Lexpress, according to which McDonald's supposedly hid part of its revenue from taxes in France.
In response to public pressure, McDonald's has sought to include more healthy choices in its menu and has introduced a new slogan to its recruitment posters, "Not bad for a McJob."
The word McJob, first attested in the mid-1980s and later popularized by Canadian novelist Douglas Coulon in his book Generation X, has become a buzzword for low-paid, unskilled work with few prospects or benefits and little security.
McDonald's disputes this definition of McJob.
In 2007, the company launched an advertising campaign with a slogan, "Would you like a career with that?" on Irish television, asserting that its jobs have good prospects.
In an effort to respond to growing consumer awareness of food provenance, the fast food chain changed its supplier of both coffee beans and milk.
UK Chief Executive Steve Easterbrook said, British consumers are increasingly interested in the quality, sourcing, and ethics of the food and drink they buy.
In a bid to tap into the ethical consumer market, McDonald's switched to using coffee beans taken from stocks that are certified by the Rainforest Alliance, a conservation group.
Additionally, in response to pressure, McDonald's UK started using organic milk supplies for its bottled milk and hot drinks, although it still uses conventional milk. Its milkshakes, and in all of its dairy products, in the United States.
According to a report published by Farmers Weekly in 2007, the quantity of milk used by McDonald's could have accounted for as much as 5% of the UK's organic milk output. McDonald's announced on May 22, 2008, that in the United States and Canada it was switched to using cooking oil that contains no trans fats for its French fries, and canola-based oil with corn and soy oils for its steak items, pies and cookies by year's end. With regard to acquiring chickens from suppliers who use CHA/CAS methods of slaughter, McDonald's says that it needs to see more research to help determine whether any CAS system in current use is optimal from an animal welfare perspective. After McDonald's received criticism for its environmental policies in the 1970s, it began to make substantial progress in reducing its use of materials.
For instance, an average meal in the 1970s, a Big Mac, fries, and a drink required 46 grams, 1.6 ounces of packaging. Today, it requires only 25 grams, 0.88 ounces, a 46% reduction.
In addition, McDonald's eliminated the need for intermediate containers for cola by having a delivery system that pumps syrup directly from the delivery truck into storage containers, saving 2 million pounds, 9-10 tons, of packaging annually.
Overall, weight reductions in packaging and products, as well as increased usage of bulk packaging, ultimately decreased packaging by 24 million pounds, 11,000 tons, annually.
McDonald's effort to reduce solid waste by using less packaging and by promoting the use of recycled content materials has been recognized by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. In 1990, McDonald's worked with the Environmental Defense Fund to stop using clamshell-shaped styrofoam food containers to house its food products. In April 2008, McDonald's announced that 11 of its Sheffield, England restaurants have been engaged in a biomass trial program that cut its waste and carbon footprint by half in the area.
In this trial, waste from the restaurants were collected by Veolia Environmental Services and were used to produce energy at a power plant.
McDonald's plans to expand this project, although the lack of biomass power plants in the United States will prevent this plan from becoming a national standard there anytime soon.
In addition, in Europe, McDonald's has been recycling vegetable grease by converting it to fuel for its diesel trucks.
In an effort to reduce energy usage by 25% in its restaurants, McDonald's opened a prototype restaurant in Chicago in 2009 with the intention of using the model in its other restaurants throughout the world.
Building on past efforts, specifically a restaurant it opened in Sweden in 2000 that was the first to intentionally incorporate green ideas, McDonald's designed the Chicago site to save energy by incorporating old and new ideas such as managing storm water, using skylights for more natural lighting, and installing some partitions and tabletops made from recycled goods.
In 2012, McDonald's announced they would try replacing styrofoam coffee cups with an alternative material. In 2019, McDonald's switched from plastic straws to paper ones in Ireland and the United Kingdom in an effort to reduce plastic pollution.
However, a subsequent investigation by the Sun revealed that the new paper straws were not recyclable.
Disabled activists have also criticized the shift away from plastic straws as of late. McDonald's uses a corn based bioplastic to produce containers for some products.
The environmental benefits of this technology are controversial, with critics noting that biodegradation is slow and produces greenhouse gases, and that contamination of traditional plastic waste streams with bioplastics can complicate recycling efforts.
Studies of litter have found that McDonald's is one of the most littered brands worldwide.
In 2012, a Keep Australia Beautiful study found that McDonald's was the most littered brand in Queensland.
In 2009, Keep Britain Tidy likewise found McDonald's to be the leading producer of fast food litter on British streets, accounting for 29% of the total.
An early protest against this practice was Operation Send It Back, launched by London Greenpeace in 1994 in response to the company's targeting of activists in the Buck-Liddell trial.
Participants in Operation Send It Back returned 30 sacks of McDonald's litter to the company.
In the 2010s, similar individual protests took in New Zealand and England. You just said that on video.
McDonald's has been involved in a number of lawsuits and other legal cases, most of which involve trademark disputes.
The company has threatened many food businesses with legal action unless it drops the MC or MAC from trading names.
In April 2017, Irish fast food chain Supermax submitted a request to the European Union Property Office to cancel McDonald's own trademarks within the European Union, claiming that McDonald's engaged in trademark bullying, registering brand names, which are simply stored away in a war chest to use against future competitors after the trademarks have prevented Supermax from expanding out of Ireland.
The WIPO ruled in Supermac's favor, finding that McDonald's has not proven genuine use of many trademarks, canceling McDonald's own trademarks such as Big Mac and certain MC-related trademarks within the European Union.
Burger King responded by trolling McDonald's by giving their sandwiches names like a Big Mac but juicier, like a Big Mac, but actually big, and Big Mac-ish but flame, grilled of course. On September 8, 2009, McDonald's Malaysian operations lost a lawsuit to prevent another restaurant calling itself McCurry.
McDonald's lost in an appeal to Malaysia's highest court, the federal court.
In April 2007, in Perth, Western Australia, McDonald's pleaded guilty to 5 charges relating to the employment of children under 15 in one of its outlets and was fined Australian $8,000. The longest-running legal action of all time in the UK was the McLidell case against 2 defendants who criticized a number of aspects of the company.
The trial lasted 10 years and called 130 witnesses.
The European Court of Human Rights deemed that the unequal resources of all evidence breached the defendant's rights to freedom of speech and biased the trial.
The result was widely seen as a PR disaster for McDonald's.
A famous legal case in the U.S. involving McDonald's was the 1994 decision in Lebeck v. McDonald's Restaurants, where Albuquerque, New Mexico resident Stella Lebeck was initially awarded $2.86 million, equivalent to $4.49 million in 2018, after 81-year-old Lebeck suffered third-degree burns after spilling a scalding cup of McDonald's coffee on herself.
The award was later reduced to $640,000, equivalent to $1 million in 2018.
In 2019, a McDonald's employee, Jenna Rice, sued the restaurant chain over allowing sexual harassment in the workplace and described the working environment as toxic. In April 2014, it was reported that McDonald's in Europe will use chicken meat that was produced by using genetically modified animal feed.
Greenpeace argues that McDonald's saves less than €1 for each chicken burger and goes down a path not desired by its customers.
At the end of 2018, a study was published by London Metropolitan University showing that certain bacteria, normally present only in intestinal tracts or faces, were found on McDonald's self-service screens.
A total of 8 restaurants were examined in London and Birmingham, and more than 10 potentially harmful germs were found, including an antibiotic-resistant bacteria. That's all today. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and see you in episode 3.